everyone, my name is Sam Willens, your mother of Valkyries, and your host of the Sword and the Ribbon podcast. This week, I'm going to be chatting with special guest and Valkyrie Squad's resident dietitian, Morgan Chojnacki. She is an MS, RDN, CD, and CDCES. I have no idea what those letters mean, but she's going to tell us all about them. She is a diet and nutrition specialist with an undergraduate degree in biology from the Illinois Institute of Technology and a master's degree in nutritional sciences with a focus in dietetics from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Morgan approaches nutrition as someone who loves and appreciates all foods, which I am so thankful for, and I cannot wait for this conversation. So welcome, Morgan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We're just getting that morning. We're just getting the morning started. Oh, man. Now, before we jump into this episode, I want to give a trigger warning to our listeners. This episode contains themes about body weight, diet culture, eating habits, eating disorders, and mental illness. If any of those topics are something that will upset you or cause any type of negative impact, I would recommend skipping this episode. Okay, so Morgan, tell me a little bit more about yourself and what would your dust jacket say about you?
Well, I grew up in Eastern Pennsylvania with my family, which was my parents and my younger sister and younger brother. I spent 15 years of my life competitive swimming. I started at the age of 7 and went all the way through college. I also basically lived my life around the water. Throughout high school and college, I was a lifeguard, a swim lesson instructor, a swimming coach. I even spent one summer on the beach patrol in Delaware. So it was fitting because my name is actually means by the sea in origins. My husband and I met on the swim team in college. And then in 2018, we moved out to the Pacific Northwest and have been spoiled with the beauty out here and never want to leave. And our current house is full with 2 beautiful children that are almost 2 and almost 5, and our 2 highly anxious pit bull.
It's quite a household.
Yeah, it's chaos and madness, and I wouldn't want anything different.
That's amazing. I love it. So you have a bunch of letters after your name. Can you tell us what they all mean? Because I have zero idea.
So the MS is the Masters of Science in Nutritional Sciences. The MS is the Master of Science in Nutritional Sciences. RDN is Registered Dietitian Nutritionist, which is, a regulated thing. You have to pass an exam and have special coursework to get. CD is Certified Dietitian in the state of Washington. And CDCES is Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist, which we are all well aware is a ridiculous mouthful of words. It used to be CDE, which was a little easier, Certified Diabetes Educator, but they wanted to kind of encompass more, and so they made it this huge mouthful.
But you've got so many letters, so much knowledge behind you. You're really smart.
Sure. The imposter syndrome's really real, but I've worked hard to get where I'm at, and I feel confident in my knowledge and the ability to find more knowledge.
For those who don't know, that Morgan's very active in the Discord. She's constantly giving advice, and it shows every time you make a response. I try to butt in, and I just bow out very quickly. It's not my area of expertise. So how did you get into nutrition?
It's kind of a long story. The very simple version is food allergies. But, when I started my undergrad in biology, I wanted to be a doctor. That was what I was going to do. But shortly into my college career, probably as early as freshman year, I was like, yeah, absolutely not. I'm not going to med school. But I knew I loved science. I knew I loved biology. So I kind of stuck with that. And I finished the degree and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So I entered the work field. I started working as a chemist. And then I found a job in the food industry. So I was working for a big foods company. And that was the first time I'd ever been exposed to dietitians and nutrition. And I knew nothing about it. And literally a few months after starting that job, I found out that I had a whole bunch of food allergies. I had a terrible, almost anaphylactic reaction. I swelled up. I was in a bad state. And so I found out I had all these food allergies. When the doctor called me, they were like, hey, how about you sit down and grab a pen and paper? Which is not something you want to hear. But working with a nutritionist that was actually in the company with me, and then learning about food labels and reading food ingredients and understanding all of that, I sort of became a passion. And so from there I applied to grad school and just decided to go for it.
That wasn't a long story. It was a crazy story, but chaotic intro to dietitian life for sure. And so that's what got you into becoming a dietitian.
Yeah. And it started with all of that, but then it also like it felt like this niche that I'd been moving toward my whole life, right? Like I wanted to be a physician because I wanted to work with patients, I wanted to work in healthcare, and I just never knew about this side of it. And so I think finding that and then like combining my love of the two, it got me there. And like when I was in grad school, my advisor kept telling me, "Oh, I think you'll be just like me. You'll want to get this, but then you'll want to stay in academia and do research and get your PhD and all of that." And like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. It was great, but like, no, patience is where I'm at. Like, I need to work with people and be with people.
I feel that. My own experience, like I wouldn't want to be stuck in a lab like doing research. I'd want to like interact with people. So I get that. So if there was one thing about nutrition you would want everyone to know, what would it be?
That is definitely a hard one. There is so much, but I guess I think the most important thing to me is that there isn't a right or wrong or good or bad about nutrition. Nourishment comes in different shapes and sizes, just like people come in different shapes and sizes. And by current diet culture standards, like everyone has these quote good days and these quote bad days, and it's all about finding balance and peace with food. I think like most people get these referrals to dietitians and they panic that they're going to be told to stop eating foods, but like at least coming from me, that's something that's never going to come out of my mouth. I'm never going to say don't eat that. Usually I'll be like, "Wow, that sounds amazing. What do you like about it?" And we'll talk about enjoying food. And I guess like from that perspective, if you are referred to a dietitian or you want to meet with one and they're telling you something like you shouldn't eat that or don't eat foods or restricting your food more, then find somebody new. Find somebody that's going to work with you. And sort of a shower thought I had today is like there is no one size fits all. It's nutrition should be customized. You should be meeting with somebody that's going to meet you where you're at. And everybody has different access to food, everybody has different needs, everybody has different cultural practices. So I can't just give you this blanket, eat this and everybody will win. There's no right or wrong or good or bad about nutrition. It's just food.
It's so hard, like, because it has to be so customized for each person. It's not one size fits all. Like, when you give a general answer like that, it's like, oh, like, sorry, it's just everything is everyone, and it's it feels kind of like I've given it before. Like, well, your body's going to work completely different than my body works. It's going to function completely different in that movement than mine. So we're going to have to try and figure out. And it's the same with nutrition. So like I feel bad when I'm like, well, we have to try things, or it could be from this to this. Point A to point B could be very different. So we're gonna try it out.
I literally tell people when they're talking to me and asking, I have people come say, "Oh, give me a list of foods I can and can't eat." And I'm like, I can't do that for you. But I literally tell them, I'm like, this is the trial and error phase. They'll say, "Can I eat this?" Well, try it out. See how it works, and get the feedback in your body, and we can talk about what that means. But I absolutely I use that. I say this is our trial and error phase. I can't give you the answers. We have to figure out what works for your body and what doesn't.
Yeah, and I guess in partnership with that, like having patience with yourself to learn those pieces, right?
Absolutely.
Well, for this episode of the podcast, we asked the listeners if they had any questions for you as a nutritionist. And we can chat through those questions and also talk about some of the most common nutrition questions. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect. So we're going to start off with a listener question to kick us off.
Hi, my question would be for someone who's just starting out on this journey and has quite a bit of weight to lose to get healthy due to past kind of wrongful eating habits and things like that with mental health. How would you suggest we start without feeling overwhelmed?
I guess, like, before we dive into the nitty-gritty there, I feel like it's maybe important to acknowledge that, like, I'm a cisgender straight female with thin privilege and plenty of food security. So my food experiences are going to be very different than everybody else's. And so again, that sort of personalized aspect of being able to like meet people where they're at is different than like being able to just answer questions. And of course, I'm going to try my best. But, I believe in practice from a health at every size approach. People can live in small bodies and be unhealthy, and people can live in large bodies and be healthy. In my experience, approaching things with a specific weight loss mindset doesn't work. It comes from a history of fat phobic and toxic diet culture, which I know is something that we'll talk about in the next episode. But really, my best recommendation is to take sort of an intuitive eating approach. We know that dieting doesn't work. Research supports that dieting doesn't work. Anything that restricts food or calories and cuts out entire food groups or teaches you to ignore your own body cues is not sustainable, and it hurts you. It hurts your metabolism. It hurts your health long term. So to start the journey, throw out your ideas of dieting and restricting. Throw out your food rules and all the ideas that you've ever thought you've known about nutrition. Start over. Start with listening to your body. Food shouldn't be overwhelming or scary. Food is nourishment, it's sustenance, it's culture, it's life and enjoyment. So as soon as you get that like anxiety overwhelming feeling about food, you're not doing it right. I know I said there's no right or wrong, but really, I mean, food should be enjoyable. So eat the foods that you want to because you want to, not because someone told you that you should or shouldn't. And, practice listening to your body and eating what sounds right to you in that moment.
I think that's sound help. And I like that you even address like the mental health piece of the anxiety, because I'm sure you experience it every day of people coming in with so many anxieties. You just said like people are like, oh, you're going to cut out all of my food I like.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just so I think, and people tend to go on binges and benders before they come to a dietitian visit because they're like, the intuitive eating book has this sort of comment of like the last supper mentality. Oh, they're going to restrict all of my food. I can't eat this anymore, so I need to eat all of it tonight. And that's the approach before every, new fad diet of like, oh, well, this is my last great meal. The last time I'll have ice cream before, since I'm going on this diet, I'll never have it again, right?
I've been guilty of that. That's why.
Well, we all have. And we've all been there. I don't think, I mean, I dare you to find me a person who grew up in the 80s or 90s that hasn't been there or done that.
Well, I watched my mother do it. Like, oh, well, my cleanse starts on Monday. I'm going to eat a big bowl, a big thing of pizza. I'm going to eat a bowl of cookies. Like, it's just this whole thing. And then some people know and some people don't. But I did bikini competitions, and that was both like, okay, training starts on Monday. Binge eat everything you can now because you're not going to get it for 3 to 4 months. And then as soon as show's over, binge eat the fuck out of everything you've been craving, and then we start the cycle back over again.
Yeah, vicious cycle. Not sustainable. I mean,
No.
and ultimately that last supper mentality, like you're gonna have it again. And you truly believe that you're not, but you will because your body's gonna make you at some point, whether you want to or not.
Exactly. Like I hit my crash. I cried over bread.
Oh no.
I cried over Trader Joe's pumpkin bread. I cried.
My mouth literally just watered.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I'm sitting there with a bowl of hard-boiled eggs, trying to shove them in my mouth, staring at the bread and smelling it, going, I can't eat this. Crying.
Yeah, and your body wants it, and I think there's the psychology behind like not being able to, pretend or thinking that you're not able to, or telling your body that you're not able to. There's a psychology there that like we instantly want it more.
Yeah.
But then there's the starvation mode factor too. Biologically, if you're not getting enough of those things, your body really, really craves it and wants it. And there's the hormone factor. I mean, hormones play a big role in what you're craving and what you're not as well. There's so many layers that go into it.
I know. I feel like we keep like going on and on about this subject, but we do have some other questions. So, to go off that original question, I do have a couple more like common questions for you. Is pasta and carbs bad, and can we still eat pasta or bread? As we just heard, I cried over bread, so it's a big thing in my life.
Of course it's not bad. Carbohydrates are an essential part of our diet. They're the preferred source of energy for your brain and your blood cells. For people that are living with diabetes and other blood sugar dysregulation like hypoglycemia and PCOS, like it's important to balance carbs with other foods like protein and healthy fats to like manage those symptoms and feel better, but they're great. I mean, who doesn't love a nice, especially like I'm just picturing like a fresh French bread loaf, like right out of the
Oh.
oven, hot and crunchy and crumbly. It's good. So, if you want to feel like you want to make it more a part of like a constant regular diet, you want to feel more filled and satisfied, then choose whole grains more often than not. But if you just want a nice, simple white comfort food, there's nothing wrong with it. White foods are not evil.
I have to tack on to that. So what do you mean by white foods?
Well, I think in diet culture, we hear a lot like, oh, yeah, we got to avoid the white foods, thinking of like pasta and white potatoes and bread and rice. Going through all of those things, they're villainized in diet culture. Oh, you eat white rice. That's terrible. How could you do that? That does nothing for your body. Well, it does. It gives you energy. Sure, it's really fast energy. Your body's going to absorb it very quickly. If you have trouble with blood sugar, it could raise your blood sugar pretty quickly. But who's not going to love just a nice sticky white rice? So there's benefits to it. Yes. Should it be the main source of nutrition in your diet all the time? Probably not, but there's no harm in having it and allowing yourself to have it without any guilt.
I grew up in an Asian household, so we always had rice with every meal, and it was always white rice. And if there was not a 50-pound, 50-pound bags of rice in your garage, you were starving. So
in Asian culture, it's really people are higher risk for diabetes, and they always come. They're like, "I was told I can't eat my rice anymore." I'm like, what? That's not possible. Like, I know that's not possible in your culture to just not eat it.
yeah,
Like, let's figure out better portion sizes. Let's figure out, ways to balance that better. But like, if I say don't eat that, all they're going to do is maybe not eat it for a couple days, crash, binge on it, feel guilty, and start that cycle of like, I failed, when it's just their cultural and biological desire to eat that food.
exactly. Especially when you're raised with it, like that is definitely one of the harder ones to like get rid of. Okay, so our next question, and I know my husband is dying to hear this answer too. Is there such a thing as too much fruit? I swear to God, he's a fruit bat. Every so often he'll be like, am I eating too much fruit? I'm like, I'm the wrong person to be asking. So we're gonna ask you.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Fruit's an excellent source of phytonutrients, which are believed to be beneficial to health and help prevent diseases. It provides nutrients. It's especially rich in fiber and potassium, which a lot of people do not get enough of. They're low in fat, low in sodium, relatively low in calories. As long as you're getting it from the whole fruit source, if you're getting it from juice, then you're kind of getting a lot more of the just sugar and calories from that. But it is high in a natural sugar called fructose. Similar to the previous question, carbohydrates, like to find optimal balance, I recommend pairing it with some protein, healthy fat. Again, you manage blood sugar, feel better, feel more satisfied. But they're excellent. The recommendation is 5+ servings of fruits and vegetables a day at the minimum. And I mean, most people are not getting that. But especially for picky eaters, fruit tends to be more palatable than, say, vegetables, and you can get all the same nutrients from fruit.
That's good to know. I don't think that's well advertised or told. In school we were always taught that those are two separate food groups, and you need one and the other, like to make everything work. And
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get a balance of both, definitely, right? But, overall, when we're looking sort of at the nutrient content, you can tell by the color. So all the dietitian stereotype, eat the rainbow. All the different colors of the rainbow of fruits and vegetables kind of represent their like main nutrient. Of course, there's overlap of, having all the different things, but they all represent different phytonutrients. And so, if you're getting a green fruit like kiwi, you're getting a benefit that you would get from green vegetables. If you're getting an orange fruit like an orange, you're getting the benefit that you could get from carrots. So looking at the color chart, the ideal would just be to get all the colors. And sometimes, I mean, there aren't, I personally, there aren't very many like purple vegetables that I like very much. I don't enjoy eggplant, but I certainly like red grapes. I certainly like blueberries.
say, does ube count as one of the purple yam?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. No, it does. It does. It's a starchy vegetable, but it absolutely counts.
I eat ube bread like every morning, so again, Asian household, like our staples I can't quite get rid of.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no reason to. No food's bad.
Okay, well, he will be very stoked to hear that. I'm sure some of our listeners will be too. This morning he woke up and he went to go make his breakfast, and he's like, "Oh, I have no pears." Like the saddest, the saddest. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
My son's new obsession is apples. I mean, just utterly obsessed with them, and it's like I can't keep them in the house. I'm buying them by, like, the giant bag, and I can't keep them in the house because he just wants to eat them all the time.
I mean, they're delicious. I mean, I love eating them with peanut butter, but I definitely eat more peanut butter with my apple. It's more peanut butter than apple, but I don't care.
I buy because peanuts are one of my allergies, but I buy a walnut butter that is entirely too expensive, so I only buy it occasionally. But I go through that jar with like a single apple. Just it's the apple is my vessel to eat walnut butter.
Like we'll make each other like snacks, and I'll put like a big scoop of peanut butter, and he's like, "I think you have too much peanut butter." I'm like, "But it's like so good. Why are you taking away my joy? I'm eating an apple."
Yeah, exactly. Prior to my food allergies, I was the person that my snack would be to take a giant spoonful of peanut butter and just eat it. That was it. That was my snack, and it was my mouth is watering remembering that. I love peanut butter.
This is like so off topic, but Ted Lasso, the TV show, I will constantly bring this up, but he has this jar in the open jar on his counter where he just always keeps the jar of peanut butter open. He dips his fingers in and just like scoops out just every time he passes the jar. It's like, that's a good way to live. Like, I'm for this.
Minus maybe the food safety aspect of it, but cool. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. Doesn't matter. But I was like, I like that idea. Just go leave a jar of peanut butter out all the time.
It is delicious. Good healthy fats and protein too.
It is. I forgot the name of it, but my friend eats because she's allergic to like all nuts, and I forgot which one she eats in replacement of it.
Sunflower butter?
Probably, but I forgot the company's name, and they make like a bunch of different flavors. I got their chocolate one just to try it, and I was like, I can't buy this. This is dangerous.
I just had a 88 Acres makes a couple different flavors of sunflower butter, so I bought their like trial packs, and oh my God, there was a chocolate one. I was like, this is like dessert for breakfast. It's amazing. And then I looked at the price of it and I was like, no, I can get sun butter and just add a little bit of honey for way cheaper. So I did not buy it. But because I would be so dangerous, I would just keep eating it.
Oh yeah. Luckily, like that shelf life of whatever that company was, like it was like a 2 week like shelf life once you peel the top open. I was like, I could kill this before, but we shouldn't. And let's not buy this again. Because I'm just gonna sit here and I'm like, well, it's expiring in 2 weeks. I gotta eat it.
Yeah, definitely. You got to finish that up.
Yeah, it would be like every meal. And I probably should get something else in my body other than apples and chocolate butter.
Maybe, unless that's what you're craving.
For like every meal, maybe not. Like I almost started putting it on my ube bread, and ube bread's already a little bit sweeter, and I was like, let's not sugar crash today.
Yeah, that might not be the best.
Okay, so from there, like for those who are plant-based, which I feel like we kind of already almost segued into it, but what are good quality things we can substitute for meat and still get all our proper nutrients?
So, I mean, part of it obviously depends on the type of vegetarian that we're looking at. So, like a pesco vegetarian is going to consume fish, and that's a great source. Lacto will still get their protein from milk and dairy products. Ovo vegetarian will still get it from egg products. If we're talking kind of like vegan or like better like plant sources, anything like soy, like tofu, edamame is going to be great. All varieties of beans have good protein. Lentils have great protein. Nuts and seeds, we just talked about all the nut and seed butters, quinoa. And then also, like, some vegetables will be a little bit higher in protein than others, like spinach, peas, potatoes, Swiss chard, broccoli. You definitely don't have to eat meat to get enough protein, but I do think you have to be a lot more conscious and make a lot more conscious decisions to choose higher protein foods. And the challenge, the biggest trial and error that I come across in the field is the, vegan or vegetarian that then are diagnosed with diabetes. And it's like, almost all of these sources of protein are also sources of carbohydrate. It's a kind of a delicate balance to find a good ratio to consume to not affect blood sugar too much, but still get enough protein. And it's definitely an interesting trial and error approach for everyone. A
Yes, it sounds like it. I don't want to call it a battle, but
little bit.
yeah, I'm saying it kind of is. It is. So from there, and I'm sure this is probably a very common question for you, and I'm sure other listeners would ask this as well, but some of the plant-based replacements like Beyond and Impossible, what's your take on that? I won't say what are they good, are they bad? What's your take?
My take on them for the most part is they're highly processed. I mean, in order to get a plant to look and feel and possibly taste like a meat, that's going through a very high processing. If you're choosing to be vegetarian for health or ethical reasons or something along those lines, I do think you're better off choosing more of just like the plant-based whole foods. But if it's a struggle to get protein in, I think it's okay to have those Beyond Meat replacements and stuff. I just know a lot of vegetarians that I work with would prefer not to be eating meat. And those things are actually pretty close. Like they do seem to be there. But anyway, I hate to like deep dig into that. The highly processed thing is sort of another, to a certain extent, diet culture thing, but there is a lot of processing in those, and so I think you're better off more often choosing other things. Sorry, that was kind of rambly.
No, you're fine. I think it answered the question, but also like it then prompts me to be like, well, tofu and paneer, is that technically processed as well?
Yeah, so that's where we can get into the nitty-gritty of processed, right? I mean, really anything that doesn't still look like the plant or the tree it came from is processed. Everything that basically anything you buy at the store, period, has been through some sort of process. And so I think using the word processed has sort of become part of diet culture in that, oh, don't eat processed foods. Well, what does that mean? you know, rice and bread and pasta, sure, but like, everything's processed to a certain extent. So I think it again kind of just depends on like how far you want to go, right? Like what are they doing to make that look and feel and taste like meat when it's coming from a plant versus the processing to make a paneer or a tofu?
No, that's fine. I had to ask the question.
Yeah, of course.
So we already touched on it with the whole peanut butter thing, but cravings. We all have them. What causes them? And why do we crave sugar all the time? And how can we, quote unquote, control cravings?
Cravings are interesting. They involve like a really complex interplay of different body signals, brain messages, habits, culture. And I don't think it's like entirely clear where exactly they come from, but there is evidence that making sure that you have a really good balanced diet can reduce or eliminate the cravings. There is some thought that like intense sweet cravings, for example, come from not getting enough carbs in the diet. Kind of touched on this, but like diet culture has emphasized that carbs are evil and a lot of people restrict them or avoid them or even kind of subconsciously choose like, oh, that's too much. I should skip the bread for this meal or something like that. But as I mentioned, it is the preferred fuel for brain. So your body starts to urge you to eat more, and you interpret that as like an intense sweet craving because what are sweets but a simple sugar that's going to give you quick energy, the energy that your body and brain are looking for. So, ensuring that you allow all foods, you eat a balance of carbs with every meal and snack, that's going to help you to kind of avoid some of those. But also, trying to avoid a food you're craving is just going to make it worse. Like, if you avoid that food thinking, oh, you can't have it, no other food is going to satisfy you, and you're going to end up just craving it more, and you're going to eat and try to fill this void. And then eventually you're likely to give into that craving anyway. So it's, in the end, it's like I always tell people, I'm like, please eat what you're craving. Try to eat a reasonable portion of it. Try to eat till you're satisfied, but not like gluttonous on it. And because otherwise you're going to overeat, then you're going to get to that food. You're going to eat it anyway. And in the end, like you would have been better off just starting with that instead of eating all these other foods to try to fill that void. And also, like, don't feel guilty about it, right? Like, who cares? We all, well, not everybody, but I love ice cream. Like, I'm not going to feel guilty for eating some ice cream. I love it. It's delicious. Like, what's not to love? But if I try to tell myself, no, you shouldn't have the ice cream tonight, like, I did this a couple weeks ago. Well, to be fair, I wasn't trying to avoid the ice cream. I didn't know what I was craving. But I had 3 days where I just could not stop eating all day long. I was starving. I couldn't figure it out. And one night I just grabbed the ice cream and I ate some of it. gone. The next day, I had a normal appetite. I was eating normal food again. I didn't have any weird cravings or intense desires to go overeat. So I think like, just do it. Don't feel guilty about it. Eat the food you love.
No, totally. I mean, I had the similar thing, I think it was last month. I don't crave chocolate all that often, but I just really wanted Hershey Kisses. And I think it took me like a week to be like, oh, go get her, because I don't buy them all that often. So it was like, I would go to the grocery store, leave, and be like, ah, oh, damn it, I wanted those damn Hershey Kisses. So I finally like went and got the Hershey, like made a trip to go get Hershey Kisses. And I think it took me a whole month to finish them, but I would pass the bowl and pick up like 3. But I also put that bowl in a place where I don't actually like walk all the time. But I would eat like 3 to 4 a day. And I mean, it satisfied whatever craving I needed. Maybe it was just stress. Are we shocked?
You stress?
Never, not at all. But it helped, and it was like they're gone now, but my craving's gone too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think if you, again, you kind of allow yourself that freedom to have it and to have whatever is going to kind of satisfy that craving, you feel a lot better. You feel a lot better than just like, oh no, I can't have that. That's bad.
Exactly. So, another big item people have questions about is breakfast, just like one of the Valkyries in this next question.
So I'm wondering what other Valkyries are eating for breakfast, or maybe what anyone would recommend eating for breakfast. I am a person who's not big on eating breakfast, and I also know that if I sit down to eat a meal, I will not get back up and do my workout. So anything that is nutritious and will fuel me for my day, but that I can also eat on the go, is a big help.
So this kind of depends on the when and how of everything. To just stress it further, trial and error. Um, But I guess, like, if you are looking specifically for like a pre-workout meal, then something with simple carbs that's going to digest actually quickly will be helpful. I'm actually going to kind of pull in a Court of Silver Flames reference here.
Cool.
Cassian actually tells Nesta to eat a more balanced meal than I would recommend before working out. He tells her to have the porridge with eggs, no sugar because she'll burn through that too fast. He advises her against the toast because she'll burn through that too fast. Porridge and eggs, any protein rich meal is good if you're like, 2 to 3 or more hours out from your workout. But if you're going to eat something and work out in less than like that 2 hour period, I would argue something lighter is going to be better, actually, like the toast Nesta initially wanted. So, like, for example, this morning, my go-to pre-workout fuel is an applesauce pouch. It's a quick, easy, digestible carb. It has, 15 to 20 grams of carb, and it doesn't fill me up. I can go run immediately after sucking one down, and I don't feel it in my stomach. So everyone has different preferences to this. I think it's something to play around with what works best for you. And that is going to involve trying it out and working out after and seeing how you feel. If you're doing something that's going to be, more than an hour of working out, then you probably need more than that. And you'll also likely need to start fueling while exercising. So, just taking personal, like when I go for a long run, I'm going to be running for, up to 2 hours. I have to fuel during. If you're going to if you're going to work out for 1 to 2 hours, you need like 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour in order to keep your energy up and keep your body doing its optimal work. If you're going for more than 2 hours, you need like 90 grams of carb per hour. And so I mentioned like the applesauce pouches are like 15. They have all sorts of products out there that you can buy that you can kind of simple, quick fuel. I use goo, which has about 25 grams of carb in it. But when you finish the workout, then you need protein.
Yeah.
So to get back to the listener question, maybe you can have protein bars on hand, maybe ready to drink protein shakes because those would be like a nice, easy on the go fuel. Um, I like to pre-prep egg bite things. So they're like you kind of like scramble up eggs with vegetables and maybe some meat or cheese or whatever you like, and then you pour it into a muffin tin and you bake that, and then you freeze those, individually. I like them in packs of 2 because one is not going to satisfy me. But you freeze those and then you pull them out, and it's like 30 seconds in the microwave, and you have a delicious, easy on the go egg bite. And, if you have extra time that day and you want to be fancy, maybe you scramble it up and you throw it in a tortilla so you get some extra carbs there. Or, I like to sometimes just drink like a yogurt smoothie on the way as well. I think the important thing is just having a lot of variety of like easy options to try out and see what works for you, and make sure that you do eat when you feel hungry, right? I mean, if you ignore those cues or you forget to eat because you wanted to get your workout in and run out the door, like, you're really impairing your body's ability to heal from the workout. You're kind of hurting your metabolism. Your metabolism thinks that you're starving. Your cells don't understand that you have access to food. They just think, "Oh, cool, we don't have food. We're starving now." And so, there's a lot of biological impacts of that as well. So I think just variety, trial and error, and just, even again, protein bars are fine to have as sort of a backup when you're in a situation that you need to go and run and eat something.
So, because I'm a 90s child, as are you, are there adult Go-Gurts like that you would recommend? Because that's like when you said a yogurt like shake thing on the run, I was like, is there an adult Go-Gurt? Like, I just loved the convenience of a Go-Gurt pack. And I was like, that's kind of like the goo, but I personally don't like goo, but I was like, I would love a yogurt pack I could just throw back.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had a patient this last week that was like, "Oh yeah, I just take Go-Gurt and freeze them and eat those." And I was like, "Oh my God, is that a throwback?"
Oh my, yeah. I was like, wait, oh my God, I remember core memory unlocked.
Yes. Yeah, right? I mean, just totally, I can feel it in my mouth.
Yeah, no, I remember the texture. Oh my God, that was amazing.
Everything about it. I mean, so they still sell
Yes,
Go-Gurt.
that I know.
Go for it. I get the Chobani, I don't know, they're just Chobani Greek yogurt smoothies. And they have like Chobani Complete, which I think even has like oats and stuff in it, so it's probably a little more carbs and maybe some fiber. Those are like, I don't have them all the time, but it's nice to have them in the fridge to be like, "Okay, I don't have time to eat. Let me just grab this and run out the door." Never ideal, but they're delicious, and I think they've got 10 or 12 grams of protein in them. They're yes, I use those. I don't think there's a form that's like, well, that's not true. They do have Go-Go Squeeze has packs of yogurt that are it's actually the same brand of applesauce that I get, but they're like squeeze up yogurts that come in like little pouches. I have not tried their yogurts. I have only done their applesauces. I like their fruit and veggie applesauces, but yeah, and Kroger also makes a generic version of the tubes of Go-Gurt.
But I like the cartoons. I think the last time I saw Go-Gurt, they're right next to the eggs in our grocery store. And then they're a little bit like farther down from the yogurt I do buy. And I remember just seeing like a character on it and I was like, oh, I want this. Mark's like, why? I was like, I don't know. I just felt nostalgic for a moment. But yes, for sometimes I don't want to like buy, child's Go-Gurt. I want to feel slightly adult and not regress. I like the Chobani option that you were saying.
Yeah, my kids will only drink like the Danimals,
Yeah.
little kid drinkable yogurts. Like, I buy these nice ones, and my kid's like, "Oh, I don't like those."
Someone knows their marketing, so it's fine.
Yeah, I want the cake one. Whatever, fine. At least it's yogurt.
Oh my God, remember the Danimals commercials?
Gosh, I mean, I haven't watched commercials in so long. I just stream everything, but I almost feel like children are missing out. I think we watched something once that recently that had some commercials, and my son's like, "What's this? What's this?" And then, and he immediately is sucked in, but it's like, I feel like half of my childhood is like remembering the
You're
commercials.
great.
This is like not the same, but thinking of Go-Gurt in childhood, I'm immediately thinking of Dunkaroos.
Dunkaroos?
Do they sell those anymore? I don't know.
I swear they like came back out with something or they like a limited release or something.
I think they had them. My friend had them in college at some point. I think you could like still buy them at Walmart or
Yeah, and say
something.
like I think they're like very, very like exclusive, but I believe they had like a limited run, like a re-release just for a
Those
limited.
are the commercials I'm playing in my head now.
Okay, well, we'll get back on topic. So we'll come back out of our childhood into present day. What about eating at other times of the day? And should we only eat 3 meals? Should lunch be our biggest meal? Should dinner? And what about eating after 8 p.m.?
Eating to your biological clock is best, right? So I know that this is not simple and easy, and it's not like, oh, just listen to your body. But like, some people are really content and happy and feel great eating 3 meals a day. And I am not the type of dietitian that's going to sit down and be like, nope, you need to eat this many times, and this is the times that you need to eat. And like, that's not realistic for everyone, right? But in reality, like, your body starts to deplete the easy sources of fuel within about 4 hours or so. So if you frequently are going more than 4 hours between meals and snacks, you are more likely to make like less balanced decisions. You're more likely to eat more mindlessly when you do eat. So, like, think like finish your plate and eat past fullness until you're ridiculously uncomfortable and you fall into a food coma, right? That's a lot more likely to happen the longer that you go without meals. And it really does crazy things to your hormones. So ultimately, everybody has a different eating schedule. So, like, setting a time, oh, don't eat after 8 o'clock is not practical. Sometimes our bodies tell us that we're hungry later in the evening because maybe we didn't get enough during the day, or maybe we need more than we thought that we needed. And there's cultures that don't even eat dinner until after 10 p.m. I mean, when I went to Barcelona, I remember like they were just starting their, the whole like go out and eat at like 10 o'clock. The town was hopping when we landed. So I think, the best thing to do is just balance the meals and tune into what your body's telling you. If it's 9 o'clock and you're hungry, just take a second, drink a little bit of water, and just think to yourself, am I hungry right now? Am I bored? Am I just tired? Should I just go to bed? Am I emotional? And think about how that eating will make you feel, right? If I slam a carton of ice cream right now, am I going to feel good about it? Is it just going to make me feel worse? How's it going to affect my sleep? There's certain conditions, like if you eat right before bed and you have, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, like you're going to suffer. That's going to be uncomfortable. So some people have to set those limits, but I just listening to your body and making the decisions is based on what your body's telling you and how you're going to feel, and coming to it from the right mind space is the best I can say to do. And if you do eat, make it a space for eating, not in front of the TV, not with our smutty novels. Like, let's be present with our food.
Oh, I can't just read my book and eat.
Right. I mean, right. You're going to go way past, you're not ever going to know, where are you satisfied? Are you even enjoying the snack? Do you still need to eat more if you're putting your hands on the headboard? So I think focusing on your meal and then enjoying your novel afterwards is the right way to go.
Fine. Take away my joy.
And I mentioned the drinking water before. Our bodies feel thirst in our stomach before they feel it in our mouth, and we often interpret those signals as hunger. So I am absolutely never telling somebody to drink water instead of eat. That's a diet culture thing. But I say drink water first and give yourself a couple minutes, 5 or 10 minutes to reevaluate, am I hungry or was I just thirsty? Because if you immediately go to food, sure, you get water from most food, but you're also getting food and calories. You're going to eat it, and then your body's going to be like, "Wait, I needed water," and you're going to feel that hunger again shortly afterwards. And so it's going to be, this cycle of eating because you're not meeting your body's need. So start with water, drink water, give yourself 10 minutes or so and reevaluate. If you're still hungry, please go eat, right? But if you realize that, oh, well, I'm not hungry anymore, or you completely forget and don't even reevaluate, then, maybe you were just thirsty. And slowing down each bite, not every meal, not every snack, but like when you get to a point in your meal, stop for a second, drink a little bit of water, and think about it. Say to yourself, am I still hungry? Would I be satisfied if I stop here? If I stop eating right here, would that be good? Or would I still have the desire for more food? And, drinking water throughout the meal is good. The exception to that is going to be people who fill up too quickly. So if you're somebody who feels like you're full too quickly, then drinking water before or during your meal will fill you up too much. So I'd actually rather you not.
That's me.
Yeah. And if you have GERD, again, any sort of reflux, drinking water during the meal is actually going to make that worse. You tend to swallow a little bit more air and it pushes that food back up your stomach. But generally, I mean, drinking throughout the meal is going to help your body to absorb nutrients better and just kind of, again, be more present with, am I hungry? Am I full? Am I satisfied?
Very solid advice. So, this next listener question I think would be the most common question we get in Valkyrie Squad, but you can let me know if you agree.
Hi, my question is if I'm doing the Valkyrie program and I'm trying to build muscle strength, what are the best foods that I can eat to help that happen? And should I be adding something like protein right before my workout, right after my workout? Does it even matter what time I do it in comparison to the exercise? Thank you so much.
Yes, I agree. That's probably one of the most common questions, and like every kind of new wave of Valkyries comes through and it comes up again. So, yeah, and I mean, I apologize. There's a little bit of overlap here, I guess, but generally I'd recommend people getting that protein-rich meal or snack within about an hour of finishing their workout. So, too much protein or fat up to 2 hours or so before working out can lead to that fullness, discomfort, kind of feeling your food in your stomach the whole time you're working out. But waiting too long after can then cause your body more difficulties in repairing muscles from the workout. So it's detrimental. When we don't get enough protein in our diets, or I guess really when we don't get enough nutrition and calories in general, our bodies start to break down our muscles because that's an easier source for the body to break down to energy than fat. So I think, again, toxic diet culture has this whole idea of like, oh, starve yourself, like you'll lose weight. Sure, you will, but it's going to break down your muscle. It's a much easier source for your body than fat to break down. So if we're trying to build muscle, we need to make sure we're eating plenty of varieties of food throughout the day, including all of the main food groups. Fat, protein, and carbs all are essential, and aim to get that extra protein shortly after the workout. It's one of the few times that I'll kind of say like intuitive eating approach in that case. It doesn't necessarily work because a lot of people don't feel hungry after an intense workout. So kind of at that point having something, like a protein shake because it's easier to kind of drink it, or a protein bar because you can kind of scarf that down, can be beneficial because you don't feel hungry, but you still need to get that nutrient in. So simple, easy protein sources after a workout, regardless of whether you're hungry or not. I mean, I don't want you to like stuff yourself and feel uncomfortable and gross, but definitely getting that protein in right after is important.
I think there's always that like debate as should I get protein before, should I get it after, like the listener asked. But I mean, it was always like you need at least in my training, it was always get protein before, get protein after, just constantly eat protein, which is not.
Yeah, well, and I mean, there are, and depending on the type of workouts and stuff that you're doing, like there are benefits to having the protein before. But again, I think it's just it depends on what you're doing and how long you're doing it and how long you're eating right before a meal and all of that, because it just, I mean, I don't know about you, Sam, but like if my stomach is full, my workout is not going well. Like it's just like I feel it when I'm, especially when I'm doing core, but like I feel it the entire time. So I think finding the right balance. Yeah, I work out in the evening a lot of times, so usually it's going to be after a dinner meal, but it's not comfortable. And so if you're doing some more intense, like higher cardio workout, or, one of the Tabatas and Valkyrie Squad, like it is not going to feel good if your stomach is full. Protein takes a long time to digest. So if you eat the carbs and something that's just simple carbs, it's out of your system. I mean, it's like damn near instant, right? But protein is going to take a long time. And like the visual I give people is like if you have 2 cups of water and you put a piece of bread in a cup of water and you put a piece of chicken in another cup of water and you leave for an hour and you come back, right? Stir that up a little bit. What's it going to look like? The bread's probably, right? Like it's going to be like falling apart. It's going to be mushy. It's going to be maybe partially dissolved. The chicken's going to look like chicken, right? I mean, it might have some strings coming off of it, but it's still for the most part going to be a solid piece of chicken. And like that's a good visual for what's going on in your stomach. It is a lot harder to break that down.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Like, I've never had that like visual given to me.
I have to thank my mentor Chris Willis for that. That was, I mean, that really resonated with me when I was in training, and I use it all the time
I
now.
think that's amazing. Like, it's never talked about that way. Like, I cannot function on an empty stomach. So like I need some type of food in my system before I go and work out. Like, I'm not one of those people that wakes up, works out, like drinks water, works out. I can't just,
Right.
and nothing knows what's going on in the body.
Yeah. Well, that's where I've like made myself. I've taught myself I have to have at least an applesauce before I go out because I know that my body needs it, but I can't have something heavy in there.
Yeah, like I can get by with a lot. Like when I was teaching in person, and everyone in my class knew I get up way early to eat my breakfast, and then I go teach classes, and then after 2 classes I would, in the middle of my second class, I'd be like, I'm hungry. I'd be in the middle of a queue, and you'll hear me say it sometimes in Valkyrie Squad. I'm like, I'm starving. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm hungry. So my class knew, and my studio was right next to Whole Foods. So I would go over to Whole Foods. I would get a chai latte, and I would get like a muffin or something, some carb or sugar, because I needed, well, because I taught 5, 6 a.m. classes, 6, 7. I taught very early classes, and yeah, so. And I couldn't perform basically that early in the morning without food, but then I still had more classes to do. And that chai was actually probably the worst thing for me because I would get up and demonstrate a core move. And I always had to demonstrate a core move. And I could just, the liquid does not sit well. But if I just ate a muffin, I'd be fine. But the liquid, I was like, oh, that was so bad. And I'm like,
I can like feel the sloshing thinking of
yeah.
it. Like,
And I
oh.
had my microphone, I'd pull it away from my face and like burp beautifully. And then like, I'm like, sorry guys, back to it.
I love your Valkyrie Squad stuff when you're like, oh, just had a snack. Sorry, guys.
I needed fuel. Like I was just like running out. So like there's just, it's like a constant stream of food, especially when I'm like filming those things or when I'm teaching, when I was teaching in person. Like I just constantly needed the food, but I could get by. Personally, I could get by with food in my stomach. It was liquids. I was like, no, goodbye. Like protein shakes in the gym. I was like, this
Oh,
is,
I can't even
yeah.
imagine.
I would grab the bars instead because I couldn't, trying to lift heavy while I had just been like drinking a protein shake. Just,
That just sounds awful.
it was a trial and error. We figured out what worked.
Yeah, fair enough. Exactly, right? Trial and error. Everybody's going to be different. If some of those gym goers love their protein
Exactly.
shakes.
And it was just, I learned it was, oh my God, front squats, weighted front squats, like were the death of me, especially
I
with,
can feel it coming
yeah,
back.
like there were certain moves. I was like, I can't do this because I just ate. Like it was just very specific moves. It wasn't everything.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's the same, if you have a lot of food in your stomach, there are some moves that are going to be fine, but then others that are just not gonna do it.
No. Well, that was a nice flashback for me. It's like, oh,
Unlocking all your core memories
I
today.
know. Wow. Okay. We dug up trauma earlier. We just all the things. What do you people do to me? Okay. Besides protein, I know there are so many other nutrients that are important to focus. What about supplements? Which should we be taking? When should we start taking them? Which are most important? Where should we start if we know nothing about them? Loaded question.
Yes. So supplements are kind of a hard one to answer. As dietitians, we practice sharing evidence-based information. And the fact of the matter is that supplements are not well studied and they're not well regulated. Generally, if you eat like a good, well balanced diet with plenty of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, you're not vegan or vegetarian, then like most of your nutrition needs should be met. You probably aren't hurting anything if you take a multivitamin, but to be totally honest, when you pay for expensive supplements, honestly, you're probably just paying for expensive urine. Depending on where you live, I would recommend vitamin D. There are not many dietary sources of vitamin D, and it's especially important for people living at like more northern or more southern latitudes. If the sun doesn't get high enough in the sky, you can't produce vitamin D. So, like, for example, living here in Washington from the months of September to April, even if you went out and you got sunburned somehow, you would not be producing any vitamin D. And then, people with darker skin, and then people who don't spend more than like 20 minutes out in the sun with their skin uncovered without sunscreen, like you're not producing vitamin D. So, most people who are vegan or like stricter vegetarian could also do with a vitamin B12 supplement consistently. And like if you're vegan and pregnant, you should also have additional supplements like choline bitartrate and calcium. So that's a whole like discuss with your doctor and dietitian if you're there. But I think the important thing in general is to always check with a doctor if you're going to start a new supplement, especially if you're on any sort of like prescription medications, because you want to make sure that none of these things are going to interact. You don't want to just start taking some herbal supplement. Oh, cool. I heard this was really good for my heart. But like, oh, you're on this medication. And like those two together could do some serious harm in your body, right? And like if you decide you want to take multiple different supplements to try to meet those needs, like please meet with a dietitian to evaluate like what you're actually taking. My dad will probably love this, but my dad told me that he was taking like 10,000 IUs of vitamin D a day, and like that's toxicity level if you're not deficient. And so I was like, Dad, please stop doing that, right? But and I have people that come, they're like, oh, I take a multivitamin and a prenatal vitamin. I'm like, okay, but those are like the same thing. You're getting more nutrients than you need. And like, some of these nutrients can do harm in high doses. I mean, a lot of the water soluble ones, your vitamin B's, your vitamin C, like those aren't going to hurt you really in high doses. You're just going to pee them out. But the fat soluble vitamins, vitamins A, D, E, and K, you can overdose on those, and those can cause some serious problems in your body. So be careful with supplements. Don't just mix and match and do what you think sounds great, or more is not always better. And there's even like certain nuances of like if you're taking certain supplements, you shouldn't take them at the same time as other supplements, or some that you should take together. And so there's a lot of like kind of nitty gritty in there, which is why I think involving a dietitian at that time would be really good. One of the things that I always look for is I look for like some sort of certification. So United States Pharmacopoeia Society has their own process where they look at supplements and they just test them to evaluate like, oh, these are what they say they are. They actually contain the ingredients they say they contain, and the company that produces them follows good manufacturing practices. So that comes as like a little seal on the label that says USP. And so I would choose something like that because at least there's something being regulated about it. I mean, because there's no regulation, somebody could literally be selling you, oh, here, take this magnesium supplement, and like you don't know what's in there. Is there magnesium? Maybe, probably. I mean, you'd like hope that they're being honest, but you don't know. If we're talking like protein powder, like athlete type supplements too, there's other regulating agencies, like the NSF certified for sport and informed choice sport, at least in the US. I don't know if those are international. But again, those both verify that like the powder is what it says it is. They're not adding crap that's like illegal for sports performance and like all of that. So I think just like knowing some of the regulations and regulatory agencies that can be involved could be helpful. But yeah, supplements are just, there's so much out there that's like, oh, take this, you'll feel better. Take this, you'll feel better. And it's just, they can put whatever they want on their label. It does not have to be verified or true or honest in any way. So just be careful.
Feels like it's a Pandora's box when you talk about supplements.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so hard to like, there's minimal research, right? I'm trying to think of apple cider vinegar, right? Apple cider vinegar is great to like help with your appetite and this and that. And like there are some studies, but they're not big randomized controlled trials that like show absolutely yes, this is what does it, right? It's just sort of like cool. They took the supplement, they reported they felt lower appetite, you know. But for some people, it works. My grandfather takes it every day, and he swears that that's how he lost his 20 pounds and got his diabetes under control. And you know what? I'm not here to tell you not to do anything. If you want to, go for it. But please do it under the advisement of like a doctor or dietitian or both, really.
So, what about powdered greens? We see them all over social media. Should we do it? Is it good for us? Or is it just a fad, kind of like one of these supplements?
Um, there is some evidence that they can provide some health benefits, including like improved digestion, better mood, better ability to handle stress, more robust immune function, higher energy levels, all the things that fruits and vegetables will give us. Some research showed that powdered fruits and vegetables, when taken consistently, can lower blood pressure. You know, the higher amounts of vitamin E, vitamin C can fight inflammation and cholesterol and all that. But those studies are kind of done by the companies selling the products. So you
Always.
also don't know. But, you know, I'd still recommend trying your best to get those things from real whole foods. When taking it in powdered form, again, you're kind of running that risk of overdosing on some of those fat soluble vitamins. It may not actually have all the nutrients that are found in the like fresher or more whole versions of the fruits and vegetables. I think like the times that I would say like go ahead and try powdered greens would be like if you really struggle to get 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables each day, or you know maybe you're an athlete with really high demands and you just like cannot meet that, then I don't think it's like a bad thing. I think it's sort of the better than nothing approach. But if you can and you have the ability to buy fresh, frozen, or even canned fruits and vegetables, you're better off getting from the whole food than from powders.
Are there any brands you would recommend?
To be honest, I'm not really familiar with a lot of them. I know of Athletic Greens because that's one that's like all over, and like I
All
have a
over the
bunch of
place.
patients that take it, and all my patients that take it say they love it and it's delicious. So cool. But to be totally honest, I'm just not familiar with them. I try not to dig into that barrel.
That is perfectly all right. So, what about collagen powders? Do they even work?
There is some research, and there are actually like randomized control trials, which again, that's kind of like the gold standard of studies that have shown collagen supplements improve skin elasticity and joint mobility and decrease joint pain. But once again, like all the research that I've seen from that is funded by the industries that benefit from the study. So the biggest downside that I see is that like not to harp on that, but like supplements aren't regulated. So we don't really know what is in the collagen supplements. And we don't know if it can do anything that the label actually says it does. There's also concerns with collagen in particular of like heavy metals and heavy metal toxicity.
So, not the bands, right?
Right. You know, lead and mercury.
Oh, okay.
But you know, really the best thing that you can do is just keep your own collagen healthy. So get enough sleep, get some exercise, reduce or stop smoking, reduce or stop drinking alcohol, and protect your skin in the sun. Use sunscreen, big floppy hats, cover up. You know, those are the types of things that are going to keep your own collagen healthy. There's not, you know, they used to put collagen in skin supplements, and they know that collagen absolutely cannot be absorbed. um, they say it's better absorbed in the body, but what it actually does is still very unclear, since it's kind of like stored in the depths of your skin.
Yeah. I tried collagen twice. I did not like it.
I bought it once, like when I was semi convinced, you know, and this is not to like dig into this rabbit hole, but like of leaky gut, you know, whether that is a thing or isn't a thing, I'm not going to comment on. But when I was semi convinced of that, I was like, okay, fiber and collagen and all the things. And so I bought like the collagen that totally like dissolves in coffee and you don't even know it's there. And like I did that for a little bit. Like I didn't notice any difference. I didn't feel any different. I didn't kind of grossed out by the idea of it in my coffee, even though I couldn't taste it, you know?
So, I fully tasted it. I put it in my chai. I was like, okay, we're going to put it in the chai. And it tasted like meat with my chai. And it was disgusting.
That's unpleasant.
Yeah. And then the second time I tried it, my friend it was more of like the foam. It was supposed to be just like collagen foam. So I tried it. It was pre-made at a place. I swear to God, I still tasted meat. So it's like, we're not doing this. I don't want meat with my tea.
I also just like, I mean, to each their own, but I hear collagen foam and just gag a little bit.
No, completely. I was like, I'm gonna try it. We won't knock it till we try it. Maybe professionally made, it'll like be a little different. No, do not recommend. At least for myself.
Nope, hard no for me. It's a no for me.
So we have one more listener question for you to answer. Are you ready?
hmm
Hey, Morgan. So I have a history of unhealthy diet culture practices, and I had an eating disorder in high school. So my question for you would be, how do you keep track of the good stuff you're putting into your body without resorting to calorie counting? Calorie counting in the past has been kind of dangerous for me, but I can't really figure out how to make sure I'm staying around my nutrition goals without it. So any advice would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a heavy one.
Yeah, it is so hard to break out of all of those practices. I mention this over and over, but I really like to take an intuitive eating approach and tell you to stop with the rules and stop the food police and start eating what you want. The best indicator for meeting your needs are going to be signals from your body. How is your energy? Do you feel good? Do you feel like you can manage to get through the day without taking extra naps or feeling like you're always dragging? If you are, maybe you aren't getting enough fruits and vegetables and complex carbs. How is your hair, your skin, your nails? Are they dry, falling out, cracked? Maybe you aren't getting enough healthy fats and protein. How are your bowel movements? Yes, I'm going to talk about poop. Do you have them every day? Are they well formed? If not, you may not be getting enough fiber. You may not be getting enough water. How's your urine? Is it pale yellow? If it's clear, you may be overhydrating. You may be filling your stomach and not leaving enough room for food. If it's darker, you probably aren't well enough hydrated. So these are like direct body feedback on how you're doing. And if you can't listen to your body yet and you don't trust yourself yet, you can try approaching each meal with sort of like the plate method of eating. So, the plate method of eating is where you take a 9 or 10-inch plate, you fill half of it with fruits and vegetables, a quarter of it for your protein source, and a quarter for your carbohydrate. And then, are you aware of hunger and satiety? So, if you're hungry, do you eat? When you're full and satisfied, can you stop? Can you leave food on your plate? Drink a bit of water before starting the meal, eat the meal slowly, and enjoy every bite. And when you feel satisfied, you don't have to eat anymore. So I think this is probably like another, 80s, 90s kid thing. Like, finish your plate. There's starving people in X place. But that has absolutely nothing to do with you. I understand, and especially in food insecure households, like it's really hard the idea of wasting food. And that's where starting with smaller plates and serving yourself smaller portions to begin with can be really helpful, because if you're like, I can't leave food, I can't waste it, at least you can start smaller. And if you are still hungry, you can get more. But eating past that fullness constantly is going to leave you, uncomfortable, eating too much, and kind of entrenched in the guilt of diet culture as well. And once you feel satisfied, if you can push your plate away, great. Put your utensils down, maybe put a napkin over it, maybe take it straight to the sink so that you're not tempted to keep picking at the food. If you feel hungry again shortly after, then eat, right? Like, this is where you have to start listening to your cues. Maybe you didn't meet all of your needs, but your stomach was full and now you're hungry again because your body still needs more. You have to give yourself full permission to eat when you feel hungry. If you're the type of person that forgets to eat or doesn't eat, then set alarms as gentle reminders. A really good rule of thumb is like approximately every 2 to 3 hours having some sort of snack. We always joke in the Discord about eating like a hobbit. Breakfast, second breakfast, what, 11 Z's, tea after, I don't know. I can't name them all, but
Supper time,
you know,
dinner.
yeah. So, eating every 2 to 3 hours is kind of a good approach. And people that don't have appetites, it's actually important to kind of get a schedule. And the eventuality is hopefully like you can kickstart your metabolism enough that you will start feeling hungry. A lot of people that are, oh, I can't eat breakfast in the morning, will start with something really light and small every day consistently. And eventually you're going to start to feel hungry. You're going to start to want to eat. Am I saying forever and always you have to set alarms and eat every 2 to 3 hours? No, I'm hoping in a couple weeks, a month, a couple months, maybe a year, that eventually you want to eat. You're able to listen. You can trust your body and trust yourself to eat those things. And having pre-planned snacks, having things available, having things, in your purse, in your backpack, in your desk, on your table, out in the open if possible. If you've got people that are and dogs and stuff that are going to steal it, then that's not always possible. But have food available with as a visible physical reminder of, oh yeah, hey, there's a snack in my purse. Maybe I should eat something now. It's been a couple hours. And I think it involves a lot of like work in the beginning. It involves a lot of effort and it involves a lot of like ability to like trust yourself, but working at that, rebuilding the appetite, learning to trust yourself better and learning to listen to those individual cues can really, really help. And not filling up on liquids. So I think hydration is really important, but if you're sort of the chronic tea, chronic coffee chugger that like a lot of us are, like those are not giving you nutrients, and doing those on an empty stomach can actually raise cortisol levels and cause all sorts of issues. And so eat something, then enjoy your tea and coffee. Eat a snack with it if you want.
Is that why they always make the little sandwiches with tea?
Yeah, it's a good idea. And like I'm I drink my tea without any sugar or anything added, but like anytime you're having like, anything sweet, maybe you like a nice latte in the morning with extra sweetener or whatever it is, all that sugar just again, like earlier we talked about, just kind of hits your system, spikes your blood sugar, and then you have this like immediate crash afterwards. So sure, you feel good for a little and then you crash and burn. Have some protein with it, have a little sandwich, have something that's going to help your body like sustain those levels for longer so you can feel good.
I think that was incredible advice. So much packed into that whole answer.
Yeah.
So we'll tangent off of that a little bit. So like speaking of calories, what are all the numbers people talk about? Macros, micros, and not micro squad, micros. What are they? Should we be keeping track of them?
This is where I'm going to take a deep breath. Calories are just energy in our food. Macros are the breakdown of the food that comes from carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Micros are all those vitamins and minerals. So, coming from a intuitive eating, health at every size approach, I loathe calories and calorie counting. Um, it's so easy for that to become disordered, and I think kind of bouncing off the previous listener's question, like that is it's an immediate pitfall into disordered eating. Oh, I'm going out tonight, so I won't eat all day because then I'll stay in my calorie goal when I have my 1,500 calorie dinner. Oh, you know what? I want to have some beers, so I'm going to skip dinner so that I can have that as my calories instead. And like, to be totally honest, there's no good evidence on the calories in, calories out thing because like, for the general population, there's no easy way to like actually measure what your base metabolic rate is and how many calories you burn. And, every time you do some sort of fad diet where you lose a bunch of weight and then gain it back, your metabolism suffers. And so it's just, you don't know how many calories you're burning. So like roughly estimating your calories and then counting them, and when you're counting them, you're probably roughly counting them because you're not measuring everything, precisely, or maybe you are. In which case, do you get enjoyment from your food? Sorry, I'm very passionate about that, but I just counting macros is the new counting calories. So it's a new title, a new thing to look at with the same concept behind it. So roughly 45 to 65% of your intake comes from carbs. 10 to 35%, yes, that's a big range, comes from protein, and 20 to 35% from fat. If you follow that plate method that I talked about before, where you kind of divide your plate up, you're going to roughly get there. But there's no reason to count and monitor that closely. Again, if you can start to trust and listen to your body, you're going to meet that need, but it's just the new fad. There's no reason. And counting I mean, micros, like that would be where it's like, oh, cool. Like, with all my food allergies, I probably don't get enough magnesium in my diet. Maybe I should add a magnesium supplement. Like, being kind of conscious of that type of stuff, like it doesn't hurt, but like, again, most of us are probably getting a good variety if you eat a little bit of everything in your diet.
Yeah. I remember when macros like started to hit the scene and people were like, "Oh, like you should count your macros." I'm like, "I can't even count like reps." So like there's no way I can count like food. Trainers don't count. Trainers don't math.
And it's just it's complex, and I've been there. I'm like, we talked about it earlier. We've all been there. We've done that. I've been there. I counted my calories. I kept track of my food for a year. And did I lose weight? Yes. Did I gain it all back? Yes. Was it pleasant? Absolutely not. Like, I mean, it's just it ruins food. And like my husband was so sweet and so on board because he always cooks food, and like he was trying to like measure for me because I was like, well, I want to know. No, it's just it's not practical. It's not realistic. You don't enjoy your food. You sort of like become miserable, and I don't know. I hated everything about it. Like eating became so stressful, where I had to plan everything out, and like I don't know. I can't even tell you what I want for dinner today, let alone dinner in 2 days. So, like, I can't follow a meal plan, or like I just follow my gut. So even if you can't math, there's apps that can help you, but like I just don't think it's helpful.
It was never helpful. Like, I think I did it for like 3 days and was like, okay, this is about what I eat. I'm a creature of habit. So, okay, this is about what I eat every day. So, okay, cool. This is how much I'm getting. I would show my coach and they'd be like, cool, keep tracking your food. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Never tracked it again. Just made sure I stayed within my like range of what I kept eating because I wasn't going to be logging my food all the time. It was just painful. And then the competitor's diet is boring as fuck and no joy in food. At the time I was single and that was like you couldn't date because you were not a fun person. You couldn't go anywhere. You had horrible moods. It was just
Yeah. I mean, and all of that reflects like, you were probably not nourished. Like you were
no.
not meeting basic needs. Your body was rebelling against you, and those mood swings are vicious. I had a coworker who did the intermittent fasting, and she did it for like a week or two, and we were all so thankful. She determined herself that it was not worth it because she was so mean. She was just like she could not do without eating in the morning. She needed carbs. She needed energy. Oh, so mean. And she's one of the sweetest people ever. I love her, but oh my God, whoa, vicious. Anyway.
You're good. You're good. So, one of our producers, Mia, you all know her from Discord. She was on episode 3. She has a question for you, Morgan.
Hi, Morgan. So, I am a child of the late 80s, 90s. And I was brought up in a house where it was both you have to eat everything on your plate, and also that salad's really big. Are you sure you're going to finish all of that? Heroin chic was a thing. And so, what I'm finding now about myself in my mid 30s is that I don't eat enough food. When you're looking at, your daily calorie or amount or whatever, like I hate tracking. It's not healthy. I've learned the really long hard way that it is not the way to go. But I also recognize as I'm moving through Valkyrie Squad and on my healing journey that I I crash in the afternoons because I don't have the energy. I have had caffeine dependence for the majority of my life. And that also being in starvation mode for, 20 years can kind of wreak havoc on the way that your body processes hunger cues and, when to eat, what should I eat. So for somebody who's kind of trying to get into intuitive eating, but maybe just doesn't, my body is used to not consuming enough food at this point. And so that has been my big struggle in my training. What do you recommend for somebody who is kind of coming from maybe the opposite side of the spectrum of not necessarily trying to limit caloric intake, but trying to eat more, but in a way that is healthy and sustainable?
Yeah. I know, like, eating disorder treatment, for example, they put you in, you are on a very strict regimen. You eat every 2 to 3 hours and around the clock except for bedtime. And, whether you're hungry or not, they make you eat, right? And I don't know that that's the way to go because I think, you've recovered mostly from that. You're not in this like severe restriction currently. But I think having readily available snacks and pre-planned snacks that are balanced with protein, carb, and fat all together, and having those ready prepared for you, right? If you have to think about it and make the effort to make it, then there's less of a chance that you'll just grab it and eat it.
I will definitely executive dysfunction myself away from doing those things. And That's the other layer to it, is that it's a self-care task, and I'm a mom now, but also as a woman in society, we're kind of constantly told to put our own needs on the back burner and cater to others around us first. And so combining that with, trying to teach myself to eat more is actually eating better for my body has been really tricky.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you can't tell me, being a mom with kids at home, that you can't tell me that they're not constantly asking you for snacks.
Oh my goodness. The vulture situation is severe here. I am not, it doesn't matter if I have fed them first. If they see something different in front of me, what you got, mom? What are you doing?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think, kids can be a great reminder. Like, I mean, not that you necessarily want to eat every time your kids are eating, but they can be a really good, like, trigger reminder of, like, oh, you guys are having a snack right now. I should eat with you. And don't have different foods, have whatever they're having. I mean, that's one of the things when you're making meals and stuff, you don't want to make separate meals for your children. Like, you want them to eat what you eat, and same concept. If it's a snack that, like, maybe you don't like or you don't feel like is balanced enough, then why are your kids eating it? Right? And so kind of swapping the mentality of, like, okay, my kids are eating a snack right now, I should eat too, could be a trigger for you. And save the like low calorie, calorie benefit type food. Like, don't fill yourself up on raw vegetables unless they're, like, dunked in ranch and or hummus. Like, you don't want to fill up on all these, like, really good, wonderful, healthy foods, but that are going to give you absolutely no calorie protein
Right.
benefit.
We don't want to be hungry 20 minutes from now again, because that's just tedious.
And, like, the salad the salad thing, like, there's a little bit of evidence for, like, blood sugar management and regulation, right? That if you eat your meal and you approach it vegetable first, then protein, then carb, that you can help regulate your sugar better. And so some people report that they feel better doing that. But if you're the type of person that undereats, do that backwards. Like, I don't, I want you to still have vegetables and fruits in your diet, but, like, doing that first, you're going to fill up, and then you're not going to be able to eat the stuff that's providing the benefit for your muscles and for your energy, and allow you to keep going strong without crashing. I did this a couple weeks ago. I think I told you, but I was eating salads, and I was starving in the afternoon, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I was, oh, I'm not eating any carbs with it's such a low carb lunch. And just by adding something with carbohydrates to my lunch, now I don't come home and, like, eat the whole pantry before dinner. So pre-planning it and getting all of that stuff, maybe, and I know you guys have so many food allergies in your house, so I'm not even going to attempt to, like, give you great ideas, but even just something like some whole grain crackers with cheese. You get some good healthy fat, healthy protein, and carbohydrates from that. Some fruit with some sun butter. The balance, again, healthy fat, protein. The fruit's going to give you more calories than vegetables, but you're going to get some good vegetable like benefits from that. So I think just it does involve thinking and planning. And I mean, I go to Pinterest still. I don't know if that's still a thing for everybody or if that's just aging myself,
I
but I
have
go to
so many
Pinterest and I
recipes
look
on
up snacks.
Pinterest.
Yeah, I go to Google and, for certain condition, great snacks for people with PCOS or people with diabetes, don't Google's not a great source for, like, great diet information, but for food ideas, I mean, it's a plethora of information. It's helpful because I think my biggest challenge is knowing what I want to eat or knowing what to make, and, like, the thought that has to go into that is, like, where I'm like, I'm out. I'll just grab my crackers. So just kind of looking for those balanced snack ideas can be really helpful too.
So, there is one last thing I want to talk about, and that's diet culture. But since you and I are so passionate about this topic, we're actually going to turn this podcast into two parts because this was very long as it was. But we're not mad. It was incredibly helpful. And we're going to talk about diet culture in the next episode. Make sure you tune in next time for part 2 with Morgan. But before we go, Morgan is going to give us this week's piece of Cauldron Blessed Wisdom. So take it away, Morgan.
Okay, so I have 3 quotes that I love and I want to share with you. These are just like intuitive eating quotes from Bucket List Tummy. But your body is always deserving of food. You don't have to exercise to earn it. You don't need a reason to eat the foods you like. And stressing about whether or not to eat the ice cream is worse for you than just eating the ice cream. You're giving it too much brain power. And finally, flexibility in your food choices is healthy. Eating a variety of foods is healthy. Focusing on enjoying your food is healthy. Not stressing about your food is healthy. It's normal to not eat perfectly. So this week, think of a go-to snack and look up the nutrition information or look at the food label. See how many grams of carbohydrate, grams of fat, grams of protein are in it. A great balanced snack will have approximately 7 grams of protein for every 15 grams of carb, or a combination of protein and fat that adds up to the carbohydrate content. If your snack is balanced, great. If it's not, then think about if there's something that you can add or change about your snack to meet that goal. Once you decide on your snack, take a picture and tag at the Sword and the Ribbon podcast on Instagram. People are always looking for new snack ideas and we want you to share yours. Sam, do you have a favorite go-to snack?
I love yogurt with granola in it because I love crunchies in my yogurt. Morgan, what's your favorite go-to snack or even your top 3 snacks?
So, my go-to, like during the day, pre-planned balanced snack is usually yogurt with chia seeds. But my I'm home and I'm eating mindlessly because I'm too hungry snack is usually Cheez-Its or chocolate.
Oh. I love it. Cheez-Its. Oh, lasagna. So yummy. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today, Morgan, for part 1. And I can't wait for us to chat again in the next episode. And remember, be strong, kick ass, and be fucking magical every day. This episode was produced by Bex Castro, Mia Garlock, and Carolyn McMorrin. Thank you to Morgan Hornatsky for being a guest on this week's podcast. If you'd like to connect with her, you can check out her Instagram at MorGrennAcki. Her DMs are always open. Special thank you to Taylor Ash for creating the music of this podcast. And thanks for listening to The Sword and the Ribbon by the Micro Squad. If you're interested in learning more about the Valkyrie Squad, visit us at thevalkyriesquad.com. If you're interested in learning more about the Micro Squad or Geek Gym for a class, visit us at themicrosquad.com. And make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcasts from so you don't miss out. And if you liked this week's episode, please leave us a review.